In order to ensure that all of Lal Ba's brothers can have access to affordable, high-quality axes, this small workshop decided to use traditional sand casting methods to produce them. Although they don't have advanced production equipment or professional assembly lines, the axes they produce are affordable and very popular among the locals. The discarded scrap metal you see here is the raw material used to make the axes. First, the craftsman melts the scrap in the furnace. To ensure the purity of the molten metal, he carefully uses tools to remove any impurities floating on the surface. Meanwhile, in another corner of the workshop, the craftsman is busy preparing the sand casting mold. He begins by placing a sand mold box on the mold and fills it with pre-prepared casting sand. To ensure there are no air gaps in the mold, the craftsman uses various tools to compact the sand tightly. Once the sand is packed, he smoothens the surface with a scraper and flips the mold 180 degrees, sprinkling it with release powder in preparation for creating the other half of the mold. This process is the same as before, filling the mold with casting sand and compacting it tightly. Afterward, the axe model is removed and the mold is ready. After the casting has cooled, the craftsman gently taps it with a hammer, revealing the rough shape of the axe. However, at this stage, there are often excess materials and flash present, common issues in casting. To bring the axe up to usable standards, the craftsman uses a polishing wheel to grind away these excess materials. Once the polishing is complete, to enhance the axe's aesthetic, the surface is screen printed with patterns, greatly improving its overall appearance. We all know that axes have handles, so the craftsman places a core where the handle will be, ensuring it remains hollow. Once the two halves of the mold are precisely aligned, the stage is set for the casting miracle to happen. By this point, the steel in the furnace has melted into molten iron. To improve its fluidity and solidification, the craftsman adds borax, ensuring the final cast axe meets quality standards. The molten iron is carefully transferred to the casting area, and the pouring process must be handled with great caution to ensure the molten metal fills every corner of the mold completely. Once the pouring is done, they wait for the metal to gradually solidify before beginning the sand removal process. Even though the casting is still quite hot, the sand removal must happen now. If they wait too long and let it cool completely, the sand would harden, making the cleanup much more difficult. Meanwhile, another craftsman is working on the handle. He starts by shaping large wooden blocks into the form of the handle, usually around 50 centimeters in length. The wood is then sent to the workshop's carving section, where the craftsman carves intricate patterns onto the handle, matching the design on the axe head. These elaborate patterns are not just for decoration. Each one holds significant historical and cultural meaning, making each axe a carrier of stories and tradition. In this way, the axe becomes more than just a tool for chopping wood. It's a transmitter of culture. Finally, a blowtorch is used to heat the handle, bringing out the natural wood grain. Once this step is completed, the handle is ready for assembly. The craftsman applies a traditional mortise and tenon technique, learned from our ancestors, to ensure a perfect fit. First, a groove is cut into the head of the handle so that when the axe head is installed, it becomes tighter with each strike. After assembly, the protruding parts are smoothed down. Just when I thought the axe was finished, the craftsman adds a final touch, wrapping the handle with hemp rope at the grip, which improves its anti-slip properties. And with that, the axe is complete. What do you think? Do you think a handcrafted axe like this, selling for only 200 rupees, is expensive?